Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into the FL1 betting preview here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Jim Senecropi, and Kyle Evans here with you. Be going through, recapping our bets from last week. More importantly, looking ahead to Divisional weekend. No super on this one. So, guys, almost a weekend. Happy Thursday. Been an interesting weekend of football in the past. Had 3 full days of it, more or less. And now we get 2 full days of it this weekend.
It's a great weekend if you're a sports fan, as will the following weekend for championships would be. Less games each time, but this weekend will be the last, there'll be, 8 straight hours of football each day?
Yeah. Can't beat it.
Yeah, and I think one of the takeaways from Wild Card Weekend is every game was a blowout other than one. We had one score game. All the other games, each team won by double digits, and home teams were 5-1. So
With the Cowboys losing.
yeah, and we have both NFC's teams gone in the first round. We have the Browns, who had a top 3 defense in the league, about 45. Just I would say unexpected Wild Card Weekend, super Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, and if the trend continues, you could see some real crazy stuff. Like if the Packers were to upset the 49ers, which I don't think many people are giving them a chance for, but not many people were giving them a chance to beat Dallas either, then all of a sudden Detroit could host the AFC Championship, which is seemed like the longest shot ever. Still a long shot, but with these upsets, crazy things happen.
And how about that one of the coldest games in NFL history, Dolphins Chiefs. Chiefs kicked 4 field goals, and that was still enough to beat the Dolphins.
Yeah, it looked like Dolphins were not exactly prepared for the Chiefs to be passing as much as they were in that game. We do have the stats on that game. 15 people treated for hypothermia, so not bad coming from Arrowhead Stadium, I suppose, last Saturday night.
And then the Bills, of course, game got moved, which changed a lot of things, I think, for some bettors, which, you don't get those bets refunded when they do that, as long as it's the game happens on the same weekend.
Right.
So, if some people definitely the weather would change some bets for sure. Player props, all that stuff. But still wasn't great conditions when they did play on Monday, but the video from the stadium on Sunday looked like it would have just been, first, it probably would have been impossible to play, but man, it would have been fun.
And how about the TV ratings for that game? Everyone was complaining about the 4:30 start, but it was the 3rd most watched game over the entire weekend. So
it's kind of hard to
people
believe.
found ways to get out of work or
they were
watch
on
at work.
They were on a holiday because it was Martin Luther King Day. So
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in that realm, too. I mean, the Dolphins-Chiefs game was the most streamed event ever on a platform such as Peacock, right, where you have to buy in to watch. I think 23 million or something like that for that. So
get used to more of that in the future.
Yeah. It's going to be the way of the future. I've been trying to get that across to certain people, but what are you going to do? All right, enough of that. Let's go look at our picks from this past week. And Jim, Kyle, you both went 2 for 2. You're able to keep the buoy of where you guys were at for your banks through the week. Not good
That's
for
right.
me,
We
on
went
the other
4
hand.
games, right?
Yeah.
And the Browns and Cowboys.
Yeah.
Total surprise. I was shocked at the Browns. Not shocked at the Cowboys, even though it was shocking, but that's what the Cowboys do. And shame on me for betting the Cowboys. But the Browns, I was just absolutely, totally shocking. Kudos to C.J. Stroud and company.
Yeah, we all took the Browns. Definitely figured that was going to be all aboard there. Then the Lions got me. They won outright, but did not cover that 3. Cal, you were spot on with taking the Rams for that field goal.
Yeah, it was a little scary at the end when they were driving, but and as for the Steelers pick, honestly, I know you can't go back and change it like he was saying, but if I knew it was going to be clear the way it was, I probably would have took Bills -10. But the Steelers almost covered late. They were at the 30-yard line.
Yeah.
It was 3rd down. They had a couple chances and just couldn't get in.
Yeah, they moved the ball pretty well against the Bills, and they had an interception in the end zone early, so it wasn't as decisive of a victory as you'd think, but the Bills did cover the 10, so anytime you cover a 10-point spread in the NFL, you got to feel good.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it at the card itself at this point. You just couldn't predict some of the stuff. I mean, I don't think anybody sitting here really thought, for example, the Cowboys were going to look just as unprepared / not wanting to be there. Like, same in the realm, and I know nobody picked this team, right? But you were on the right side of this one, Kyle, with the Buccaneers. The Eagles just didn't look like they wanted to be there either.
Well, if you went back to Thursday, and that's one of the problems I have with the show, are just being on Thursday, it's 4 or 5 days before some of these picks and lock and change. So my initial feeling was that the Eagles were going to handle business, that they were one of the best teams in the NFL in the first half of the season. And then the second half just been awful the past month or month and a half. And you kind of thought, well, playoffs are here. They're going to take care of business. But the more I thought about it since our show on Thursday, I ended up laying money on the Bucs and really went all out with some player props and stuff, all in favor of Tampa Bay, winning that game. Money line bets, and it paid off because the Eagles, something's wrong there. They just did not want to play. I mean, you never seen a Jekyll and Hyde situation so much as this team, and so that's what they looked like against Tampa Bay. I mean, they looked like they wanted to lose.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was one of those deals where they just maybe stuff added up from, you look back, they were 1-6 in the regular season following the Sirianni yelling in the tunnel following that Kansas City win. And, maybe, I don't know about bad juju or anything like that, but, the stuff that happened afterwards, you really do have to wonder about where the Eagles collectively stand going into next year.
Something going on in that locker room, so they're going to make a lot of changes, I think, but not Nick Sirianni, so he'll be back, and he should be. He was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yep. And just the day before, we saw the Cowboys, give up 48 to the Packers. And I heard I don't know how true this is, I think it was from The Athletic, there was a report at the Eagles team hotel that they were celebrating that the Cowboys got bounced in round 1, and then they went on to lose the next day.
Oof. Huh.
So I don't know how true. I'm going to have to go back and find that article and probably show you after. But, yeah, if that's true, man, that's tough.
That's funny.
You got some player haters ball type stuff with that. Channel Chappelle for a second there. Let's go and head into this weekend. Divisional round. No supers, just I guess normal.
4 games.
Round, but yeah,
so everybody has a lot of attention on all 4 games, which makes it harder, I suppose, to find in some value that maybe other people don't see. But I find that at this time of year, you scale it back a little, look big picture, maybe look less. Don't look at like, well, the Ravens are 12th in the league in this statistical category, and Baltimore might be able to exploit it. I mean, just take a step back and try to picture what the future will look like. We're going to be sitting here next Thursday. Mm-hmm. Who are we going to be talking about in the AFC-NFC championship game? And bet that accordingly, big picture stuff.
Yeah, and how about the fact we have 2 rookie quarterbacks in C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love? I don't think we probably would have predicted that back in September.
Right.
Okay. I mean, it's not even what we were predicting 4 weeks ago. Even 2 weeks ago, even last week.
Rookie quarterbacks used to never see the field until like year 3. Yeah. Like they would get drafted knowing full well they were going to spend a season as an understudy of another quarterback, and then maybe year 2 they get in. But those days are over. Like rookie, and it's basically been facilitated by the fact that the rookie salaries. So you get that young quarterback and you get 3 years with them before you have to pay them, and you can really capitalize on it by spending that money elsewhere. So I don't know. The NFL's certainly changed.
Yeah, I think it's a combo of things. I mean, even, you don't have to go too far back. Mahomes even sat a year before he got the first full-fledged shot even. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a bunch of combo things, that, I mean, I think it also depends team situation to a degree, but, I mean, you're going to have better – the situation, for example, you see with the Texans right now, is the more rare the situation than say Chicago, where it's just been circus, for 5 years for Justin Fields. So a lot of that stuff kind of depends. But let's stick with it here. Speaking of the Texans, they're the first of the divisional round of games, heading to Baltimore late Saturday afternoon, I guess, technically. Going to be an interesting game. Going to be on the colder side, one of the colder Baltimore games I think that we've seen in recent memory. I know it's not supposed to snow during the game, but I know in the lead up to the game, they're expecting a couple inches, which for Baltimore, you don't see all that often. So for them, obviously they play outside, practice outside. It's an outdoor venue, M&T Bank Stadium. Houston, not so much. We've kind of been seeing that kind of play out a little bit here past couple weeks. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this young, uprising Houston team goes against Baltimore. They did play early in the season. Was it week 1 or week 2? Was it week 1?
Week 1, 25-9.
And Baltimore just blew them out. So they do have that little bit in the notebook for this past year. But you get to the playoffs, in theory, anything can change.
That's changed since week 1.
Yeah, for example, J.K. Dobbins scored in that game. He's done for the season.
Right.
And Justice Hill scored 2 of their touchdowns.
Yeah.
Well,
He hasn't scored now since October.
Yeah, but he'll be active.
Yep.
Him and Gus Edwards, right?
Yep. And obviously that was C.J. Stroud's first career regular season game. So lots changed since then. I don't really go by much of that.
No, and I don't think you can.
So I'm going to stay clear of picking really anything in this game. One of my picks for the week does involve this game. But I would imagine, in theory, if you're just picking straight up on a head-to-head, for example, you got to keep rolling with Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about our picks here, and then at the end give the official picks. But, yeah, I mean, I think that I want to take the Texans. I really do. I just don't know. This might be a game I don't touch. But, I mean, you watched the Texans last week.
Yeah.
Like, they're legit. But I think I might, if anything, lean towards maybe going with the over, 44.5. Well-rested Baltimore offense. C.J. Stroud is going to be throwing the ball. They got a good, Devin Singletary. So I think that's what I'm leaning for. And then looking at a couple player props, Lamar Jackson over 229 yards passing. That's about what he averaged for the year. Texans surrendered the 9th most passing yards in the NFL this season. A lot of people think that Jackson is a runner, but I think they'll have to pass the ball. I think it'll be back and forth, which is why I like the over. And then C.J. Stroud, 8.5 yards rushing. I think I'd go over in that, just thinking he'll have to escape pressure a couple times. And, really you only need 8.5. It'd be a tough one to lose if he goes under.
Yeah, so for me, I dug up a couple stats here. Lamar's actually only won 1 playoff game. He's 1-3 in his career. He's 0-2 at home, and he's 0-2 in the divisional round. And I went back to see how many number 1 seeds have been eliminated in their first game. In the last 10 years, 4 teams have been eliminated, and the Ravens are actually one of those teams, and that was in 2019 when they lost to the Titans by 16 at home. So part of me, I think just for my pick-wise, I'm just going to go with the spread and think that they cover.
I don't mind that bet. It's a tough one.
I don't know. I'm feeling I might put another bet in on the side, Texans money line. I really think with the way that offense is clicking and the Ravens, as we've seen before, too much rest sometimes might cause.
They could come out rusty.
Yep. So
do you think it's a low-scoring or high-scoring game, though? Because, I figure if the Texans are going to win outright, it's going to be a higher-scoring game. So maybe parlay Texans money line with the over, and that would be a really nice payoff.
Hold on, it's loading right here. I was just checking to see what is the over for that game.
44.5.
Yeah, I'd probably go over. I mean, C.J. Stroud, puts up a ton of passing yards, loves to throw the ball down the field, so that can lead to quick scores. Yeah, so I'd probably go over. I might do something like that off to the side.
Well, I'm kind of the opposite thinking of the over portion of events. Texans has gotten to, high-scoring affair last week. I do agree if they have a shot, if they're going to win, they're going to need to make it a shootout. Baltimore, if they get out early, Harbaugh's just going to sit on the ball. That's what they typically kind of do. It's been Harbaugh's MO since He's been a head coach. He's kind of that old school thinker where it's get the lead quick, get up by 3 possessions or something like that, and sit, and not, whether it's go down your throat or just drain the clock and force you to make more errors so this leads to your demise. That's kind of his MO, and that was kind of my thinking in all honesty. So I don't know. I will say this. I think the line right now is 9, if I saw correctly.
It's 9.5.
9.5, so it's joined that rank then. So honestly, the Texans to cover the spread, I think, is a really good bet. Nonetheless, I think at this point you get to those totals in terms of like pushing 10 in the playoffs. It's kind of like the regular season portion where you get to like north of like 13.5, where it's like it's the NFL. But to that end, I guess I'm kind of thinking the opposite of you guys. I just see the veteran stuff of Baltimore kind of prevailing in this game a little bit more than
It could. I mean, the narrative after the game, a lot of times I like to think about, like I say, close your eyes, picture, the day after the game, what they're talking about on talk radio, and this narrative could be Lamar Jackson got over that hump.
Yeah.
They're going to the AFC Championship. C.J. Stroud was just too much of a big stage for a rookie. He's going to have a great career, though. That could be the narrative, but it also could be like C.J. Stroud mania. If Texans win this game, C.J. Stroud is the next Patrick Mahomes in everybody's mind, and Texans are going to win the Super Bowl.
Definitely.
Yeah, what makes me lead, towards this confidence in the Texans is how well the Browns' defense is. And, I mean, you could see Stroud was getting the ball out quick, wasn't bothered by the defensive line pressure. So I just think he's already kind of experienced that, against a really good defense in a playoff game, and he's going to be more prepared for it.
DeMacio Ryans outcoached Stefanski last week. He's not going to outcoach Harbaugh probably, right?
I mean, in theory, you'd think one of the things would happen and then not the other, but you don't know. Yeah.
And I do have the over-under. Didn't you say 44.5? I have it here at 43.5.
Oh,
so maybe
cool.
it's dropped since then.
Yeah, I made these notes last night.
Yeah. Probably depends what book you're looking at, too, and everything at this point as well, so who knows. All right, let's talk about that nightcap game on Saturday night, Green Bay at San Francisco.
It's supposed to be Cowboys and 49ers. It's not, though.
Not quite. Same boat as Baltimore if you're San Fran, right? This is also a big line, 9.5 as well. Waiting 2 weeks for the upstart team that didn't really anybody expect to be advancing into the next round. So that'll be interesting there. Luckily, Santa Clara is not Baltimore, so the weather is not too big of an issue. So nothing to concern yourself with there. You just have Jordan Love, who has been arguably the hottest quarterback the past month, give or take, against Brock Purdy in that sense. But I think a lot of the difference in this game will, I guess, kind of be similar to what Green Bay had to face in Dallas. I think a lot of this will come down to defense and the defensive side of the ball more so than that offensive side.
I think it's a case where, in this game where last week is having too big of an impact. People saw what Green Bay did against Dallas. I think that was less of Green Bay doing it to Dallas than Dallas doing it to themselves. I don't think the 49ers are going to fall into the same type of situation. They're home, coming off a bye week. They always do well off of byes. I'm going to lay the 10 and take the 49ers. I think it'll be a blowout. I might go with the over, especially if the 49ers get out to an early 14-0 lead and keep that deficit. Jordan Love will be throwing. He might still put up some stats, but I like the Niners plus 10 and over 49.5 in this one too.
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way. I do think this is going to probably be a blowout. Probably the worst game of the slate in terms of, keeping it close. I just don't think that Packers offense will be able to move the ball as well as they did against the Cowboys. That was unbelievable. I was watching at times the amount of space between their receivers are just getting open. It's like they weren't even trying.
When they scored to go, Dontavius Wicks, I think, scored this touchdown to put them up 27-0. It was like, what the is going on here?
Oh, that's the one, because for me it was the touchdown after where it was Luke Musgrave somehow just found himself open, like.
Wide open, yeah. And so you got to say, think about it. Like, you could have taken, the Arizona Cardinals back in week 2 and played them against, the Chiefs or the 49ers, and you wouldn't see them lose by 27-0. And it was in Dallas.
Yeah, where they were undefeated, 8-0.
It's crazy. That's the main thing I had going. I was convinced that Dallas would win when they were home and lose once they went on the road. So, but man, what unbelievable. So funny.
Yeah.
So funny because I don't like the Cowboys.
No.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy's 2-0 as a starter at home in the playoffs, 2-1 overall. Yeah, it sucks because I want all these games to be close, but I don't think this one's going to be close.
Yeah, I agree. I got nothing on this game besides I have each of my just like generalized game picks picked up here. San Francisco kind of, it's just one of those things where, again, I kind of use the same logic to a degree like I use with Houston and Baltimore, but especially in this case, I don't see how the opposite doesn't quite occur where, maybe not obviously a blowout in that fashion, but I mean, San Fran is just clearly the better team in this situation. You know?
I'd say the best team in football to this point. And coming off a bye week and being at home. And yeah, I also like Christian McCaffrey going over 92.5 rushing yards, which is a prop bet. It's a lot, but he's rested up and he averages 91 yards a game throughout the season, which is crazy in this day and age for a running back. And Green Bay gives up 96 yards a game to running backs throughout the course of the season. So, the way I look at it too is like I didn't get a chance to draft Christian McCaffrey for my fantasy football league, but I can draft him in this game to go over 92 yards, get a little bit of that feeling of rooting for Christian McCaffrey, which you're usually pretty happy if you're a fantasy owner of McCaffrey.
They might as well throw some money on him to score twice because it seems like he does that a lot.
You could do that
Catching the
too.
ball and running the ball.
If you think it's going to be a 49er blowout, then that would be smart to say he scores twice.
Yep.
Damn the torpedoes. All right, let's move to Sunday here, which definitely probably in terms of both games being what they are, I think is probably the better of the 2 days in my opinion.
No doubt, especially for Bills fans, and it's early-ish, right? I think the Bills game's like 6:30, so
6:30, yeah.
It's not going to be. You're not going to be up watching football like you have for the past 5 months at 10:30 at night.
It's true, but the game before that, 3 o'clock, Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit got the pleasant surprise of having one more home game, at least in theory, through this weekend, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also end up in a weekend where not a lot of people picked them to exactly be. This is an interesting game. I got to be honest. I do have a pick for this as one of my 2 picks I have for later on here in the show. It's one of those things where I think you have 2, obviously not great quarterbacks, but 2 good quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff going at it. Guys who got cast aside by their other teams and now find themselves in the divisional round, both still in it after their former teams lost. Obviously, Goff went head-to-head against his last weekend. And to be fair, a couple, feel-good stories of the NFL this year. Everybody picked Tampa Bay pretty much to be last in the NFC South. They win the division. The Lions, we know about them. They win their first playoff game since '91, and now they're in the second weekend of the NFL playoffs.
Couple things about this one. One is Tampa Bay coming off a short rest.
Yeah.
One less game than Detroit. I just think it's so unfair in the NFL playoffs. But it is what it is, but I think that's definitely plays a factor. The Lions played on Sunday, right, last week?
Mm-hmm.
And then Tampa played the late game on Monday. So that's a whole 24 hours left to recuperate and repair. But, again, this is just another one of those things. Like, going into the season, there's, like, the Lions, through weeks 5 or 6, you're like, geez, the Lions are one of the best teams in the NFC. This might be their year. So they got over the hump of winning a playoff game, and it just seems like Tampa Bay's overachieved to this point, and now they got to come on the road all the way up north here to Detroit, and one less day rest. You got to like the Lions, but I am impressed with what Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay has done, and I do think this game will be a shootout as well. 48.5 is a lot of points, but think they're going to be a lot of throwing of the ball.
Yeah, it'll be much different than when they played back in Week 6. It was 20-6 Lions. Jameer Gibbs didn't even play in that game. Just a weird game. So, yeah, I expect it to be way high scoring. But should I reveal my pick here?
Just give your pick, and then
I'm
we'll
going to
give
say,
an
though,
official
the Bucs cover the 6.5.
It is a lot, yeah.
I feel like it's going to be, maybe a 4-point, 6-point difference, and it's just going to cover. So that's one of my picks that I'm going to roll with this weekend. I actually have picks for all 4 games.
I do too. Well, I don't know what I'll lay down officially on the pod here, but I've got opinions on all 4 games.
I mean, I have picks for all 4 too, but I can only afford to do 2 picks. So.
I take the Lions -6, as opposed to laying the points with Tampa Bay or getting the points. But my prop bet of the weekend is Josh Reynolds over 38.5 receiving yards. I mean, he's really come on strong. He had 80 yards last week against the Rams on 4 catches. When they played in that Week 6 game, he had 50 yards in that game against Tampa Bay. He's becoming a favorite option along with Laporta and Amon St. Brown for Jared Goff. And so if you think there's going to be a lot of points scored, the ball should be thrown to Josh Reynolds 4 or 5 times at least. And usually they throw it downfield to him, so 38.5, not a lot of yards.
Yeah, so his yards after catch really help.
Yeah.
Because of the deep shots.
Revenge game for Josh Reynolds too last week as well. So
That's right.
what do you guys think about the weather in Detroit for Tampa Bay?
Somebody, did you see that?
That's why. Yeah, that's why.
Todd Bowles, a reporter asked Todd Bowles. He's like, well, it's in the dome, so it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I love how he's like, maybe for the 20 seconds coming in, but yeah, that's called making sure you do your homework on that one. So I guess with that, let's move to the 4th, final, and
The biggest
especially
one.
here locally, grandest of them all, Kansas City at Buffalo, Sunday evening, 6:30. First time that in the Mahomes era, the Chiefs are in Buffalo for a playoff game. Could this be the tide turning for the Bills in the playoffs against the Chiefs? It's supposed to be cold, not snowy for a change in the past couple of days. In fact, still right now in Buffalo. But it's supposed to be cold. It's supposed to be the matchup that, I don't know, I think we all maybe expected for next weekend and not necessarily this weekend,
Yeah, this game is so huge. I think it's even bigger than the last few times they met in the playoffs because, at that point, you didn't know that they weren't going to beat the Chiefs either time. If they go and lose this game and fall to 0-3 against the Chiefs, I mean, you're questioning Sean McDermott. You're questioning, will they ever get over that hump? Will Josh Allen ever, beat Mahomes in the playoffs?
They're home this time, too. Like, that was always the excuse. They had to go on the road. This year, they're home.
And he's 5-1 at home in the playoffs, so that's good right there. And they're 3-3 head-to-head, Mahomes and Allen. Obviously, Josh has won 3 of the 4 regular season games to put that record at that. So, yeah, this should be obviously a great one. I'm glad this is the final game of the slate. Save the best game for last. If the Bills do win this game, the AFC Championship will be at 3 o'clock next weekend. So no more night games after this one, except for the Super Bowl if they get there.
Well, that's a different type of night game anyway, Yeah, I mean, this is a Buffalo team that, we were talking about Bills Weekly 7 weeks ago, even 8 weeks ago in that 2-month mark that we were pretty much done with them. We didn't know what to really kind of do with them, and they catch fire at the right time and find themselves with the upper hand, having that home field advantage against a team that they haven't been able to have that home field advantage against.
Speaking of home field advantage, Texans beat the Ravens, Bills beat the Chiefs. Guess who's hosting the AFC Championship?
Right.
So Bills fans will be highly interested. Worst case scenario, Texans beat the Ravens, Chiefs beat the Bills. That would be devastating. And like Tampa Bay, the Bills are at a bigger disadvantage against Kansas City in that they played Monday night and the Chiefs played Saturday night. So Chiefs have 2 full more days to rest and recuperate and prepare for this game than the Bills, and that's a lot. Sorry, it's a lot. Like, if you played in that game Monday night, right now on Thursday, you're still a little beat up and sore, and you got, especially with the injuries they had on defense, that's just a huge advantage to in a game this big to have another team getting 2 more days rest since their last game. and I think it could play a factor here. Although I do like the Bills, it just feels like it's time. It feels like the Chiefs are vulnerable. Obviously, they're not the same Chiefs as they have been, and it just feels like it's Josh Allen's time. It'll be a tough place to play for Mahomes to come in as a visitor in the Chiefs. But Andy Reid's a great coach, and it's not going to be easy. But I do like the Bills, and I kind of like the under 46.5 in this one too.
Yeah, the regular season matchup was 20-17. Obviously, we've seen it's different in the playoffs when these teams meet higher scoring games, but I do feel like this will go under. And one thing that we keep hearing from national media all week is how, since Mahomes is going to be on the road for his first playoff game, how already during the season they've had communication problems. They've taken a lot of false starts. I forgot exactly where they rank.
Well, they were the team that more or less caused the rule change week 1 of the year because of the right tackle, if I remember right? Dwayne Brown was not cheating of sorts, right? But he was getting the quick movement, and that's what caused probably part of that too. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy because you can clearly tell, like, when he has to do, whether it's hot routes or audibles, like, even in that sense, like, there's a very clear miscommunication or some sort of issues going on with that.
You see that a lot, and you see a lot of times where the throws are going on the other side of the field and the receiver's going on an out route. I think this is huge. I think the crowd can definitely make an impact in this game.
And the Chiefs are no stranger to getting beneficial, questionable calls in these games. If you go back to last year against the Bengals, the game was almost essentially over until the late flag came in. You hope a situation like that doesn't arise on either end. You'd like to see this decided on the field and not by, a referee call late. But, geez, it is going to be a good game in the game of the week and the game of the year in the NFL. I got a prop bet for this one too. A couple of them actually.
Have at it.
I like Josh Allen over the 44.5 yards rushing. You saw it that game. He got that in one run. I don't expect him to break one off from 50 yards this game, but I do expect him to run into the secondary multiple times while scrambling. And I also would expect maybe even a design run at some point for him a couple times. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 8.5 yards rushing. Now, they like to dump it to him a lot of times. He doesn't see a lot of time on the field, but he's more of a power runner than Pacheco, and I just think he's going to probably get 3 to 4 rushing attempts in this game, and I like him to get the 8.5 yards.
Yeah, I mean, probably going to need him, like I said. Could be wrong, but obviously, Chiefs last weekend, what will be, warmer conditions this weekend, but passed it a ton last weekend when they weren't probably expecting it to. But, I'm kind of with you, though. Helaire, that makes sense for him, and they're going to need the pace. For me, it's more like the pace of play element with him, where it's like, even with the Chiefs' struggles, they tend to be a quote-unquote quicker team, and not a knock on, Edwards-Helaire. He's quicker than all of us in the room and then some, but, he's definitely a step behind Pacheco. So I like that, though. I like that. That's a good find by you.
Well, he's going to go out there. They'll give him at least one drive per half where, Pacheco, he comes out and he plays the whole drive. Yeah. They also like to bring him out when they get in the red zone. And, again, you just need 8.5 yards here. But, it's fun to find a guy like this where you only need 8.5 yards because he could get shut out in the first half and you still got a chance right up until the game ends. You depend on the situation. But, this it's going to be hard for Bills fans to wait to be the final game on Sunday night.
For sure. And then, and I know you talked about officiating, Jim. I believe Sean Hockley, right? His cruise.
That's the
I was
storyline.
about to. What is it? Chiefs are like 3-1 with him in the playoffs or something.
Yeah. And they're like 10-2 in the regular
Ed
season.
Hockley?
It's his son, Sean.
His son, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put him as the referee, and I guess the stats kind of show that he leads towards KC. But I'm not one of those guys that are going to blame the refs. Just go out and play well.
Yeah.
But if they get one of those holding calls like he was mentioning against Cincinnati, where remember that just changed it and basically ended the game right there, that's going to be frustrating to
Yeah,
lose
you
a
hope
game on
there's
that.
nothing like that happens. But hopefully, in an ideal situation for the Bills, they've got a big enough cushion heading down the stretch, up 2 scores inside 5 minutes. And whew,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I have Buffalo to win the game. It's just kind of like, the side pick to pick every game there. So, you know, it's interesting though for next week to look ahead because for them especially, it's like, would you rather have the home field advantage or would you rather have the matchup situation if you're the Bills and they were to win?
home
You know?
field.
You want home field?
Yeah. Yeah, just give me home field, even though CJ Stroud's unbelievable.
Fair enough. All right. So I think with that in mind, we can get to our picks for the week. You guys split 2 and 2 for the week. So
Can I do all four again?
yeah, absolutely, Kyle.
I'll go with 4 as well.
Do you want me to lead off? Or?
Kyle, have at it.
All right, so I'm going to start first. Texans plus 9.5 at Baltimore. 49ers minus 9.5 versus the Packers. I'm going to go Buccaneers plus 6.5 at Detroit. And then Bills minus 2.5 versus the Chiefs.
All right. Love it.
Whew.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm going to go with the 49ers
Okay.
minus 10. And
You want the 9.5 though?
yeah, give me the 9.5.
You got it.
And I'm going over in the Texans-Ravens game, 44.5. Is that what you got up there? 43.5.
43.5 on
43.5,
DraftKings.
yep. I'm going to go with that player prop. I'm going to go with that Josh Reynolds player prop. I said it's my favorite prop of the week.
Okay.
Over 38.5 receiving yards. And I'm going to go with the Bills minus 2.5 as well.
What was the yards again for
38.5.
38.5? All right. All right, and then for me, because of my incredibly small bank, I'm with Kyle. I'm going to do the Bucs plus 6.5. Actually, I think they're going to win outright on Detroit.
Ooh.
So there's my call a shot.
Well, if
moment,
they
you
do,
will.
give yourself 2 wins on the board next week.
Well,
You can take them. You can take
All right.
them with the points, but if they win outright, give yourself 2.
all right, I'll do that then. Don't need to tell me twice. I'll take free money potentially. And then I guess we're gonna have a pick fight between me and you, Jim. I'm actually taking the under in that Houston-Baltimore game. Doing the under. What I will do though is I'll take the under 44.5 because that's what you found it at. So,
Well, that was last night.
but we're gonna do the take your best line spot here.
Okay.
So that way, in theory, I guess we could both win. You know?
If it's 44,
Yeah.
if it's 44 on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, but yeah,
We're all at a score prediction.
for me personally, I just have a tough time seeing Houston kind of put back-to-back numbers up like that against Baltimore, who I don't know. I know it's week 1, but they
Hey, if
struggled.
you went back to
Just-
a week ago
Yeah.
and you said, "Man, who's got the better defense, Cleveland or Baltimore?"
Right. I would have said no. I've been pounding
They
the Cleveland
ripped
drum all year.
Cleveland
you know?
apart. So I don't know. A lot of over and under betting goes with how that game progresses. If the Ravens jump out to a 14, 15-point lead,
Yeah.
then there's probably might not be a lot of scoring in the second half. But if it's close and they're going back and forth, I mean, I think they'll blow right by that number.
Yeah. All right, so our picks are locked in and set to go for the weekend. That pretty much does it, I'd say, for us here today. One question I do want to ask you guys here before we go, and we can't show it here or else the YouTube copyright strikes will be coming inbound. But did you guys see what can only be called perhaps the worst beat of all time this past week in college basketball between Bryant and New Hampshire? No scoring the final 4 minutes, being stuck
needed
on
1
163.
to go over.
Crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I got a bad beat last night, college hoops. I did a 4-team parlay, money line, hit the first 3 legs. The last leg was a 9 p.m. tip between Youngstown State and Oakland.
Oh, the Horizon League.
And
boy.
Youngstown State were 3-point underdogs, and I took them on the money line, my money line parlay. lost by 3.
Yeah.
If I took the 3 points, I would have pushed and won some money on the parlay. But that's how I got good odds on that 4-teamer
Yeah.
with a couple underdogs in there. But yeah, Youngstown State really let me down. I pulled that game up on ESPN Plus and watched the end of it, and they had every chance to win, and they didn't. And it would have been a nice payout.
Yeah. Brutal. Yeah. Horizon League's been fun this year.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to be in the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl.
Like you can bet that now.
Yeah, it's true. I'd say as it stands right now,
I'm not going to go with an obvious pick. I'm going to go Bills-Lions.
you're going to go Bills-Lions?
Man.
Okay.
Seems like a lot this year. I know it's different sometimes in the playoffs, but so many times we think something's going to happen and the opposite happens. I mean, we just saw it in the wild card weekend. So, the 49ers
That's been
look
the theme
unbelievable.
of the year. Yeah, that's been the theme of the year.
Yeah.
What you expect to happen doesn't.
I'd go. See, I agree with Buffalo at this point.
Really? You're getting past Baltimore if they
Who? God, I hate sounding chalk, but I guess San Fran.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
it's no right. Obviously, San Fran.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think that this is a case where what you think happens doesn't happen. I think
Right.
San Fran's legit. It's been that way all season long. They're healthy. I mean, and all you got to do is look at their defense.
Right.
Look at that defensive line. Then look at Fred Warner and Greenlaw is your middle linebackers. I mean, San Francisco is the favorite for a reason.
Yeah.
So I do like San Francisco in the NFC. AFC is tougher. It literally could be any of these teams, including the Texans. And nobody's talking about the Chiefs, but they were the defending champs. They're still the team to beat, right? But if I got to choose, I'll go Bills versus 49ers. And then, sadly, 49ers win in the Super Bowl.
What do you think the worst Super Bowl would be?
Well,
Among the
ratings
teams
wise?
left? Just like maybe your own opinion.
you say worse, but my sicko fantasy would definitely be Tampa Bay and Houston. I mean, I would revel in it. I would revel in Tampa Bay and Houston,
I mean, yeah, nobody wants to see Baker Mayfield in the Super Bowl.
except me apparently.
But I think that the worst Super Bowl would be the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay,
Only because
that's rematchish though. I mean,
it is, but the Chiefs, this isn't a Super Bowl caliber Chiefs team. And if they get there again, it's like, what is everybody else doing? Somebody beat the Chiefs. I don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again.
And we don't need to see Chiefs-Niners. We already saw that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's see something different. I know my Lions-Bills pick probably isn't, a thing to bet crazy money on, but that would be fun. Different teams, Bills obviously looking for Super
Definitely
Bowl.
different teams.
Yeah.
Lions never been there. Bills haven't been there in a long time.
And imagine those offenses going head-to-head.
Yeah.
and we haven't seen a battle on Lake Erie quite that tenuous since Admiral Perry was patrolling.
Yep, taking it to
Waters.
Vegas. So
Hey, I got my history note in there for the day. How about
Please
that?
don't let us see the Bucs and Baker Mayfield in the Super Bowl. Ugh.
You're sick. I'm all about Vita Vea getting another Super Bowl opportunity. So
And if they beat Detroit, they're just going to get smoked next week.
you don't know that.
For sure. Baker looks good now, but
Tampa Bay hosting Green Bay next week in the NFC title game. Crazy.
Tampa Bay would host that game.
Yeah. Green Bay. Yeah, Green Bay's low. Green
Yeah,
Bay's
they're
the
the
seventh
seventh.
seed. Yeah. Crazy.
Well, anything's possible. I wouldn't count on it, but yeah, if you want to put some money on a Tampa Bay Houston Super Bowl, it probably pays pretty well.
Oh yeah. It's got to be the longest odd one, right?
Yeah, anything with Tampa Bay in there.
So, all right, that does it then, I'd say, for this edition of the Betting Preview, Divisional Round Edition. Good luck, guys. Hopefully you all end up back in the green officially next week. I know I'm sick of looking at red for me, so good luck to everybody else out there as well in your picks. We'll be back again next week for Championship Preview Weekend. How about it? Looking forward to that. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Good luck. We'll talk next week.